the FITnatics. I'm here today with Sharon Zafrani, who is a licensed financial coach. And we are here on the beginning of a very, very important three-part podcast series on women, wellness, and wealth. Hi, Sharon. How are you doing today?
So great. How are you today, Susie?
I'm excited. This topic is a hot topic, and I really am looking forward to getting into it. Specifically today, we're going to be talking about an introduction into financial planning, what that looks like, what that sounds like, and when do we need to get started? But before we get there, I want to know a little bit more about you, Sharon.
Thank you so much. It's funny. I've been in this industry for about 5 years now, and I have absolutely zero background in financial investment. It wasn't anything that I really even delved into in college or in any of my careers before I actually got into the financial industry. And what brought me here was the fact that I was a mom. I am still a mom of 3 kids, married. And I met an incredible woman. I'll get to meet her at some point, Dina Michael. And as a mom to mom, she was just like, well, tell me about how much you know about your finances. And I stumbled. I didn't know. And nobody ever sat with me and my husband and actually helped us with any financial planning. So she said, come get educated with us, come learn. And how I quickly realized is how many people in my community actually didn't know these things as well. And so I kind of got my desperation, took it into inspiration, and I wanted to start teaching it and helping other families and individuals start getting ahead financially. So that's kind of what brought me to this point, and I haven't looked back. I love helping people. I love making a difference, and nobody helped me. And if I can help more people, I definitely want to.
Awesome, Sharon. And that's something definitely that resonates. I know it resonates with me as well as my audience in respect to not having that education for whatever the reason. I know everyone's paths are different, but nonetheless, I feel that as women, we have kind of in the past maybe been more of, well, we'll just get by, or we're not really, well, we don't invest, or I'm too young, or my husband does that. And I feel that as time has gone on, that no longer is the case, because as you know, Sharon, when it comes to health, as women, we're outliving our spouses. We are living longer. We are working longer as individuals as well. So knowing where our money is going, knowing the numbers has become so much more important these days.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even to take it a step further, people in their 40s and above, they start really feeling like this pressure, like this, almost like this pressure cooker. Like people got, they're like, oh, I need to start a family, and there's that pressure cooker. But there's also this pressure cooker of, am I going to be okay financially? What if something happens? Like, do you even know where your money is? And I actually find that that's probably the biggest thing that I deal with my clients, is that they have no idea what their financial picture looks like. And the number one thing that I always tell people is, if you don't know, how are you ever going to get anywhere? If you don't know where you're going, or at least where your starting point is, where your point A is, how are we ever going to help you get to point B, to what you want to accomplish? So that's definitely something that I'm seeing everywhere, and everything you said is true, resonated with me, and where I was, and really so many people in our communities, women all across the country.
Sharon, why do you think that is? I can tell you from my personal experience as an entrepreneur, a businesswoman, health and fitness, wellness coach, that when the time came and I got into that crunch, I just turned 50 in October. So when that time came, like you said, around the 40s, and I felt that pressure you're talking about. And I'm just curious, as from your experience with your clients, what's the barrier? Why, what's holding them back? And I can tell you, before you tell me what held me back, I felt not any longer, because I made that mindset shift when it comes to money and finances. But it took the education, it took like you're saying, the time to get to learn, ask, and sometimes putting yourself in a vulnerable position. And that's how I felt. I felt very vulnerable and exposed, and sharing my finances, and where that came from, I don't know, because in reality, it's not that big a deal. It's numbers, right?
Absolutely. And yes, there's a lot of shame that comes with money. And,
Mm.
maybe it's generational. Maybe it's, your grandparents taught you not to talk about money, or your parents said, don't talk about having too much, or don't talk about having too little. There's a lot of shame that is associated with money. And maybe you're not where you want to be, or maybe you have so much and you don't want people to know. And so, yes, while it is that, the biggest piece of why we find ourselves in that stumbling place is that there is that lack of education. Only 17 out of the 50 states actually require a financial course to graduate high school. That's where it starts. It
Mm.
starts with we are sending people off to become adults at 18 years old without giving them any knowledge or experience in what it's going to take to become an adult. So what happens? They graduate high school. Companies start offering them credit cards. They don't understand how it works. They don't understand how to pay it back. They go into student loans, and maybe they just get into this really, really deep hole that they now have to start climbing out of, all because of a lack of education. So that's where we can really take it back. One, it's your personal relationship with money, having too much, not wanting people to know, not having enough, not being where we want to be, and having that shame. But two, it's that lack of education.
I agree, Sharon. I really do. Now, the majority of my clients, I coach women in midlife. And what I have found as a result of just observation is that a lot of those women um, grew up in the 50s and 60s, where in a relationship, in a marriage, typically the male was the one who took care of the finances and paid the bills and so on and so forth. And as a result, I found, and I have come across in women that, at this point in their lives are like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure about, how much money goes out and much. I'm not sure how much this bill is or that bill is. And I'm wondering if you've come across that quite a bit with your clients.
Well, Susie, that was me. My parents are very much that traditional marriage, and even to this day, if my mom wants to think about doing something big, she's making money, she works, but she's not going to go and spend a big thing without consulting with my dad first. He was always that person that he had the good head around money. He was the saver. He had to kind of give that approval, and that was very traditional. And that the men brought in the majority of the money. He was the breadwinner, and the woman kind of had to follow his lead. Now, what's also happening is that many women are getting divorced. And, even if they get divorced, they also don't know what has even been happening in their money. So I kind of saw my mom, I saw they had a great marriage, and I did the same thing with my husband. I was like, you know what? He's a little bit older than me. He has more experience than me. He made more money than me. And I let my husband take the reins on our finances. And he did the best that he could. He did great. I'm not complaining about what he did, but I will say that I took no responsibility in knowing what we were doing. And I think that that is the biggest piece, is that it's okay if you feel like maybe your spouse knows more and is doing good, but know what they're doing. At least know where your money is. Do you have an IRA? Do you have a Roth IRA? Do you have a 401k? Is he contributing to it? How much is he contributing to it? What is that going to get you? Even on common goals, by the way, when couples talk about money and set goals at the start of the year, and they're setting those, what do they want to accomplish by the end of the year? My husband and I just had a big conversation. He took out his big whiteboard and we said, like, okay, what's coming in? What are our goals to hit by first quarter? What are our goals to hit by the end of the year? What are we going to accomplish? How much are we saving? How much are we investing? And coming together in that conversation, one, holds us both accountable, but also it keeps us guiding together. And I think that really makes a stronger marriage when you can openly talk about money. So
Absolutely.
those are some of the things that yeah. Sorry.
That is good. That this is great, Sharon, because I think it's so true. I mean, you resonating so much, I feel like, with many individuals in our audience. And, when it came to having that conversation initially to seek, financial planning or assistance, coaching, did you reach out to your husband? Did he reach out? How did that conversation start? Or what because those are sometimes not the easiest conversations to have.
Yes, and absolutely, it is a very vulnerable space to be in, no doubt. And actually, it started with the fact that somebody approached me, Dina, in this case, to start
Mhm.
talking about opening up that conversation around money. And within
Okay.
a week, they said, they're like, well, let's look at your financial picture. And they coached me into it. And we had a conversation with her husband, Elon. I remember I told my husband, I was like, I don't know. I started taking these classes and they said we need to have a financial plan in place. And he's like, well, let's go listen to what he has to say. And we sat there and he started digging a little deeper. He's like, well, tell me about where your money is at. Well, let's figure out how much you actually need to save in order to retire. Well, what does that break down to on a little monthly goal? Okay, so you need to put away $1,000 a month if you're going to hit this big goal that you want to hit. And we're like, okay, so you have to put away 500. I have to put away 500. Well, we can't. We weren't in a good financial place. I'll be totally open and vulnerable about that. We were in hard times at that time. And so we took it back. We're like, well, what can we do? And I think that rather than just stopping and saying, I can't do that and letting that be the answer, we really have to open up our minds to what we can do. Well, can you put away 100? Can you put away 200? What's a little goal that you can just start to build up that muscle? It's kind of like exercising. You want to lose 50 pounds, but you got to start with one. You got to start with going for daily walks. You got to start building up that habit of moving your body so that you can get to that 50-pound loss. So it all starts with one small step, one small commitment. And then from there, you can start accomplishing those bigger goals. And I promise you, it becomes easier once you start.
Yes. One of my philosophies is do what you can do, how you can do it, when you can do it. And I feel that mentality, that mindset that you just shared with me is exactly that. It really, it lowers the barrier to entry. It allows you to feel like you can do something instead of feeling the opposite, which is overwhelmed. I don't know how I'm going to do that, because that mentality for anybody is going to be very depressing, because it's like failure, right? And no one wants to fail. So absolutely having that mindset of like, look, what can I do? And there's always something that we can do, correct?
Absolutely. And, even on that topic of, sometimes spouses maybe do go head to head. And if you are in that couple where, let's say the spouse, your partner really isn't interested in starting this, maybe they're too shameful, maybe they're too uncomfortable, maybe they just think they have it all figured out. There's no reason. I always encourage a couple conversation, but I have no problem sitting with one person who is really motivated to start taking some good steps and at least coaching them. And listen, I started my own journey. I took control of my finances. And I think that that's a big piece, is that you really have to kind of think, well, you know what, even if he's the financial person, and let's even say, in some couples, they give an allowance or a budget of what you can spend. Well, why don't you put away 20, 30 bucks of that budget for yourself? Just put it away and know that you're taking some sort of proactive step towards accomplishing some sort of goal. And that goal can be a vacation. That goal can be retirement. That goal can be an emergency fund. Whatever that goal is, having that little bit of habit and really taking ownership. You can't sit there and expect somebody else to do it and then feel like you have no responsibility, because you always have some element of control and responsibility. And that's what I want people to realize, is like, even if you did $5 a week, you know what? I'm not going to go to Starbucks. I'm going to put that $5 in that piggy bank. We all have habits that we can change, areas that we can work on. Sometimes it takes getting a second job and leveraging more, getting more money, but sometimes it's just a little habit changing.
And it's that autonomy you talk about, definitely, is taking ownership of knowing that you are in control of your decisions, your habits, and your actions. And I think that's very powerful, and something that individuals may maybe overlook, in that, even though we are quote unquote married and we're in a partnership and in reference to ourselves, nonetheless, we still bring in our own monies into the table. And at that point, we still have control over something. Just because we're in a partnership doesn't mean we are at the mercy of the other individual. I will share with you, Sharon, that I got married later in life, and my middle of my 40s, and my husband was divorced. So coming into this marriage, and he has 2 kids, it was, I was established, he's established, our careers, etc. So it was kind of a little, like, how do we do this whole money thing? And a little, very uncomfortable conversations. I can already feel my heart rate. My heart beating, and just remembering, just like, okay, we need to have this conversation about this, and how are we going to handle this, and what about the future? We're just coming together here, but we need to plan for that future. So I think, just like you, I happen to be the one in my particular relationship that kind of took the step forward first. got the information, started doing some things. And as a result, I think he kind of saw, okay, yeah, what are you doing? Let's do this together. And shortly thereafter came together and we were moved forward, with our financial goals together. But I can definitely say that, that whole, like, depending on you're coming from a divorce or you're getting married later in life, whatever the situation may be, it's not always on somebody else. As you said, we have to take ownership ourselves
And
regarding those situations.
if I can say one thing on that topic, especially with dealing with people who have second marriages after one has divorced or after both are divorced, there's no reason that you can't at least take the steps to start dreaming about a common goal. And you can say, be like, I understand this amount of money needs to go to your kids. Be bold and ask and speak and talk about those conversations. I promise you, in most cases, they're happy you're inquiring. They think that maybe the person doesn't care. Maybe the person doesn't want to know. Maybe the person doesn't want to get involved, and they're afraid to bring up that conversation. So when you open up that space in that conversation, oftentimes there's a lot of relief because now they can kind of like, it takes the pressure off. They can talk about it, but you want to really start setting up, how are we going to make this better than what happened in that last marriage? What areas weren't working there? How are we going to fix that? What do we want to accomplish as a couple? And that's how you're going to build a stronger foundation together, is that you understand the other obligations of the former marriage, of the children, of whatever that is going on, but you're also establishing new roots, new goals, and new procedures for how you're going to operate your future together. And also you can have that autonomy of saying, listen, I understand what happened there. I still feel comfortable having my own savings account and will contribute something into a joint. So that's okay as well. And, you kind of want to have that conversation of like, where are you comfortable? And really kind of meeting in the middle. So for example, I have my own savings account. My husband has his own, and we have a joint. And this way I feel like I'm taking the control. I'm setting up my goals. I'm doing what I can to get myself ahead. He's doing his, and we also come together in a common goal so that we're all holding ourselves responsible and active participants in all of our goals.
Yes. Yes, Sharon. So what would you say is the first step for someone, whether married or not, the first step for an individual to start those financial goal setting? Is it too late? When is it too late? Is it ever too late?
It is never too late. But what I will say is that you have to come from a vulnerable space where you are open to really identifying where you are today. And yes, it feels like you're getting naked, you are stripping all your clothes, you are standing there and completely vulnerable. And we have on our website, like, we have this incredible money discovery sheet, and it really helps you fill in. It has a bunch of little topics: retirement, goals, debt, everything, life insurance, like what do you have in place for your financial picture? And you can just fill it in, and it gives you an entire report of where your financial picture is at. And you can email it to a financial coach like myself. And you can then have somebody say, like, let me look at your, kind of like going to the doctor. Let me do a full screening. Let me do a checkup. Let me look at your blood work and your panels and everything. And then let me make some recommendations of how we can now start improving. And then obviously it's also knowing where you're at, but knowing where you want to get to so that you can start taking the steps, even the little minute, little tiny little steps forward to start accomplishing those bigger goals.
Wow. Yeah. So what would then be in this particular, economic landscape, how would you, or what approach would you take for someone who's, living paycheck to paycheck and, thinking financial goals, I'm just trying to make it to the next paycheck?
Yeah. Most people feel like they are paycheck to paycheck. Some people truly are. Some
Okay.
people just have a bad spending habit. It's those Netflix and Hulu accounts. It's those, it's the Amazon, the small little buy now purchases. Oftentimes when you do really peel away the layers of that onion, there are areas where you can cut and save. But like I said, some people truly are paycheck to paycheck. And when that happens, you really need to start opening yourself up to earning additional income. But number one is, I always say, even if you're in debt, do not put all of your disposable income, all of your extra, towards debt. You have to build that emergency fund, because otherwise, the second that there's an emergency, and emergencies will happen. The dog, I was just telling Susie, my dog needed surgery because he started limping out of nowhere and suddenly he needed surgery. Do you have that
Mhm.
emergency fund set up so that you're not now going into more debt? And if that's, because it's kind of like if you're saving, and then a little stumbling block happens, but you have that savings account, okay, you take a little pause, you dip into it, and then you continue climbing. But if all you're doing is trying to tackle your debt and 100% of your money is only going to debt, only going to debt, only going to debt, well, you're going to be tackling that debt. But the second that emergency happens, well, now you're deeper in debt. Now you just put another 1,000 on your credit card. And that's a challenge that most people are dealing with today, is that
Mhm.
they don't know how to really properly plan their disposable income to start working for them. So there should be some sort of balance.
Mhm.
Ideally, in a perfect picture, you want to be putting away 50% towards your bills,
Mhm.
30% towards your debt, and putting away 20% towards your savings, investing, retirement. That's the perfect picture. Not always possible, but that's how you really, if you can scale down your life and you
Mhm.
really are working in a budget, I would say that that's probably the best balance.
So one more time again, Sharon, it's 50% toward the bills and then 30% towards
Debt, be
debt.
it student loan debt, credit card debt, mortgage, whatever debt, mortgage can be bills, mortgage can be debt, kind of the way that you look at it is a good debt to have,
Mhm.
still a debt. And then I would say normally it's the 30% towards the tackling that bad debt that's earning interest and accumulating interest. And then
Mhm.
20% should be going into some sort of investment, long-term, short-term, mid-term, of some savings that is hopefully earning you interest and now building you a safety bucket and a retirement.
Got it. Now, the majority of your clients, are they coming in already with some sort of knowledge of money and investing, or do you see the majority of your clients coming in kind of like, I don't know what's going on. Let's dig into this.
So I always ask this question. This is always in my first conversation. I always like to kind of gauge where they're at on their financial education
Mhm.
so that I know if I'm having a more basic conversation or a more higher level conversation. And so my question always is, well, tell me, if you were to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like you understand investments, you love looking at the stock market, you understand savings, you're making enough money, you're saving enough money, you're good. And one being like the majority of America that has never had an education. You may have a savings account, but you really don't know how it works. Maybe you're contributing to a 401k. You don't know how that works. Where would you rate yourself? The majority of people will fall into a 4 to 5, where they
Okay.
know they have a 401k. They know it's a retirement plan. Maybe they've dabbled in something like Robinhood or some sort of like little investment. They understand a savings, but they don't really have a plan. And that's, I think,
Mhm.
what really sets apart the tens from the ones is that whether or not you have a plan, a proactive plan that you're actively doing.
Perfect, perfect. And I agree with you because once again, Sharon, what you're saying just falls super in line with what I do with my clients when it comes to their health and their mindset, their nutrition. Very much so, we need to have, where are we at now? Yeah, like you said, if we want to lose weight, where are we at now? What is the goal moving forward? And like you said as well, I'm in total agreement with that. That's why I feel like this is such a good match when we're talking about our mindset and money and fitness and wellness, because they go hand in hand. If we are not in a position that we don't have a plan and our dog needs surgery right away, or a car breaks down, or there's, a tornado that came through, and, so many things, COVID, uh, that puts stress, right, Sharon? And what does stress do? That affects our health. That affects our mental wellness, our physical being. So many things are impacted when we lack planning for our future financially. I used to think, I'll be quite honest, I used to think, not a big deal, figure that out. But as I get older, I recognize that, well, yeah, things are going to happen regardless. But for me, my peace of mind, my ability to be not worried about everything 24/7. What if, what if, what if? But by having a plan doesn't take away those things from happening. But if and when they do, it does give me some sort of peace of mind and reduces, or at least helps me to manage some of that stress that could come from not having anything going on at all.
Absolutely. And beyond that, when you kind of think about that plan, I really want you to break it down into three pieces. The first
Okay.
piece is going to be your short term emergency bucket. Do you have, if you're to lose your job, if you're to lose your income, if you have to take care of a sick family member and suddenly stop working? I'm working, one of my, she's an associate. She's also like a really, really good friend at this point. She has to now quit her job at the end of the semester. She's a teacher and she has to fly out to take care of her aging mother who's really suffering health wise. And so we're like, all right, she's a teacher full time. She works with us part time. And I'm like, we're going to have to kick up this virtual business because you're going to have to be at home taking care of your mother. So these things happen. These things will always happen. Fortunately, she's also set herself up. She has a pension, she has a retirement, she has all of these things set up for this occurrence. But at the same time, most people don't. And so we want to make sure that you do have that emergency bucket. You can take care of yourself for 3 to 6 months, just depending on your stability of your income in case those emergencies happen. Then we look forward to the midterm bucket. And the midterm bucket is like, well, what are your 5 year goals? Like, if you were to paint yourself a picture, are you where you're at today, where you want to be in 5 years? So, do you want to upgrade to a bigger house? Do you want to have a better car? Do you want to, maybe go on a big vacation to Italy or to Europe? Like, what does your life look like in the next 5 years? And how can we start building towards that goal? And then long term, of course, because nobody wants to work until their dying day. We all want to live these long, healthy, beautiful lives, but we have to plan for it. And I get so sad every time I see somebody in their 80s and 90s miserable working somewhere because nobody sat there and helped them plan for their future so that they could do what they wanted to do. Now, some, maybe they just love working, but that's the small majority. Most people want that peace of mind to know that in those later years, in their 60s and 70s and 80s, they can just choose to now enjoy life in the way that in the space that they want to, that they dreamed about. So that takes some planning too. And the earlier and the sooner that we start planning for that retirement, the more we allow time and compound interest and our money to grow and work for us so that we can get to that ideal retirement. So it's really about setting up that goal, knowing your fin. Do you know, Susie, by the way, what your fin is? Do you know, am I speaking to a term? Probably most people don't.
Okay, I
Your
don't know what fin is. Tell me.
fin
Educate
is your
me.
fin is your financial independent number. So it's kind of taking your quality of life. Like, let's say I need, I don't know, $5,000 a month today. I'm just about 40 years old. I need $5,000 a month to pay my bills, to live, whatever quality of life. That's the average in the United States. We have to factor in inflation. So in about 20 years, you're probably going to need about $10,000 every single month to live the same quality of life. By the way, you have not upgraded your life. You're living the same
Right.
quality of life just due to inflation. And then how are we going to start taking that income out? So maybe you need $1, $2 million in savings. That's your fin, your financial independent number, so that you can start living on that money. You can start taking out that distribution and living on the money that you saved. So a fin is a very personal number. It has to do with your spending habits, your quality of life, where you live, your location. California, where I am, 5,000 doesn't get you very far. Like, you need at least 10 to live medium, like, just, I'm talking middle class life needs at least $10,000 a month to pay their bills. I'm not even saving
Mm-hmm.
money at $10,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So that is all going to kind of play in. So when you think about that retirement that you want and that quality of life, you have to know how much you need at that point to really get you there so that you can live off of it and you don't have to worry about running out of money.
Yes, Sharon. Speak it, Sharon. That is fantastic. And this very helpful information. I think once again, a similar, approach when it comes to health and wellness is taking these little steps, these bite-sized chunks that we can digest and take in and then ready to move to the next step and the next step. And I think that's really the most effective processes, not just for health, but when it comes to wealth, I believe, to build the wealth, and with regards to health is to build a healthy, well-rounded lifestyle with regard to your health and fitness. So I think what I feel like this conversation really drills down to is do it. If you're not capable or don't know, there are resources out there. And Sharon, if you could share with us, how can someone either get in touch or get access to some of the resources for a financial checkup or any additional resources with regards to investing money, financial planning?
Yeah, so definitely we do different financial education seminars. You know, if you get in touch with some of with myself, with Jennifer, with Dina, like any of the financial wellness series coaches, we're happy. And by the way, everything that we do is complimentary. We don't charge for our services, which I think is something that you can't really get everywhere. We want to help people. We don't want any family left behind, and we want people to start navigating their life with confidence. So if we can sit with you one on one, help you do that money discovery sheet. By the way, those big companies, they will charge $2,000, $3,000 just to do a money discovery for you. So if we can help
Yes.
you identify your needs, help you set up those goals, and help you implement that plan, well, that's a win-win. We've helped the family, we've done our service, and you now know that you're on track to something better. So you can definitely, follow us on Instagram. You can follow the ILN. We'll share all of those handles with you. My personal Instagram, and any other resources. But just
Mhm.
start learning. Come around, get educated, ask great questions so that we can help be a resource for you to get the answers. But most importantly, start dreaming. If you don't start
Mm.
dreaming about what you want to accomplish, it's very much like the law of attraction. The universe has a very interesting way of bringing you the answers when you need it. And if you know your goal, if you know that dream, suddenly I just blanked out on there's the piece of the brain that
Mhm.
identifies like things that you're thinking about or looking for. I'll remember the
Mhm.
reticular activator. Thank you. I got that word. I think that's the word.
Got it.
But basically, it's kind of like saying, you know what? I will pay you $100 for every red car that you see. I guarantee you, your brain is suddenly going to see more red cars than any
Mhm.
other time because you're now looking for it. So if you know that you want to buy a house in
Mhm.
Arizona, you're going to start noticing people that are living in Arizona starting to talk about that market. You're going to start popping up, maybe looking at MLS because now you're kind of really thinking and searching and looking. But start dreaming and be really, really specific on your goals. Your goals
Mhm.
need to be tangible, need to be a vision. You need to be able to see it, taste it, feel that goal, and it's amazing how the universe will start contriving opportunities for you to now to accomplish that goal and to help you start setting it. But it starts with dreaming. But a dream is nothing if you don't take that step and start acting.
Absolutely. You it was such a great point, and that vision, the dream, the visualization, so to speak. And I teach a course, a food relationship course, and the basis is mindfulness. And when we, just as you said, when we put something in our head, our intention, or we're mindful about something, what we're eating, or our money, when we put that into focus, which is my mantra for 2024, focus, then you're absolutely right. Then we're more aware of, like, why am I eating if I'm not hungry? Because you're thinking, you're more aware. So it's not anything that you have to go out and buy to get better at, or take a course to get better. It's a practice of mindfulness, and in a sense of deciding on what those goals are, as you said, what the dreams are, what your focus is. And as a result, you will become more aware, and your path will take you to the direction you want to go. So definitely agree with that so much. I think that, it just gets me very excited because the philosophy is, it works, Sharon. It works. When we're mindful about what we're doing, or how we're spending our money, or what money's coming in and what's going out, it's amazing. You're just like, well, wait a minute. Whoa, I didn't know that. And then from there, we really can build on those habits you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
All right, Sharon. So this is the big, big question, and you better be ready for this one. Are you a FITnatics? And if so, how do you stay healthy and in shape?
So, just like my money, just like my mindset around money, you have to build habits. And for me, it really is. I'm a classes person. When it comes to fitness, I'm like, you will never find me in the gym doing a treadmill or looking at that. I just look at the machines and I walk out. But if I love coaching. I love having somebody who's motivating me to get to where I want to go. And so I love fitness classes. Yoga classes are a big one for me. I've always been very, very keen on yoga and mindfulness and that calming and that meditation. I also love doing a cardio kickboxing class once a week. And that really just kind of gets my heart rate up. Unfortunately, I get so sweaty that I have to wash my hair that day. So that's kind of like why it ends up only being once a week. I wish I could do it every day. But that ends up really building my heart rate up and really kind of getting me up and moving. And then daily walks. Now my kids love riding their bikes. So getting out in nature. I love being outside. The fresh air is really, really, really good for us. And I think we take that for granted, how much we need nature, how much we need to just get out and really start working out and being one with nature. So going for walks, cardio kickboxing, a little balance of yoga. That's the ideal picture for me.
Awesome, Sharon. Thank you for sharing that with us. And also, thank you so much for your time and expertise today. I definitely appreciate it and look forward to many more conversations on women, wellness, and wealth.
Thank you so much, Susie.
And thank you guys for joining us today, and see you next time.